Hi everyone, I'm Joseph J. Williams. You can Google me to see more about what I do and my TEDx talk. So I'm a scientist, I'm a researcher. I'm a professor at University of Toronto and I'm in computer science mainly, but I'm also cross-appointed because we do research in statistics and in psychology. And so what we do is we try to investigate how you design technology to help people. And as a researcher, what you're trying to do is come up with new knowledge. For example, one thing we're working on is how do you build a text messaging service to help people manage stress and mental health? And what we're doing is testing out different messages to figure out which ones work for different people based on their current context. And we apply machine learning to figure out that, analyze it to see what's working for who and how that changes over time. So how did I get into this career? Well, I found it really interesting when I was reading subjects that I'd never heard about in secondary school in Trinidad. Cognitive science, experimental psychology, computer science, which I hadn't studied, right? I had done, math and physics and so on, chemistry. So in university, I was exposed and I found it really interesting to think about these questions, right? To try and answer questions people haven't answered before. I liked doing detailed things with data, just diving in and trying to analyze it. So that's kind of how I got into it, right? In a way, a bit by being exposed to many different areas and trying to dive a bit deeper and learn about them. Now, what did I have to study to get here? Here's the truth, and I'm being a bit controversial. You all focus way too much on school. You all spend too much time beating book and trying to get good grades. I'm sorry, that's not going to serve you in life. Spend 80% of your time beating book. What do you do in 20%? In that 20% of time, one day a week, you need to actually explore what careers look like. You have to speak to people and take recordings, because you're not going to remember it, of what they like about their job. You don't have to shadow people. So when you're next stressing about your subjects, every 4 hours you spend stressing your subjects, spend 1 hour going and talking to a person and asking them, talk to a real person, ask them what they do in their job. Talk to James, talk to me, talk to people here and say, what do you do every single day? Why do you like doing it? Why do you not like doing it? And do that now, but also set a calendar event for yourself, 5 years in the future. Go to the website futureme.org and write email to yourself 5 years from now, and when you get to university, do the same thing. Because you're going to spend so much of your life trying to get good grades, and I'm sorry, that's a big mistake. Because that shouldn't be your whole life. You need to actually imagine what it's like to work, get experience, because that's the way you're going to figure out what career you want to do. The subjects you choose are not going to matter that much actually, because you can always switch. Look what my subjects were for CXC, right? Spanish, history, math, add math, physics, chemistry, English literature, A-levels, math, further math, chemistry, literature. Don't matter, didn't matter at all. I could have done anything else once I explored new areas. So I don't know if that was what you expected to hear, but what do you all take away from this? What are you going to do right now so you actually, what I said makes a difference? You're going to download this app, Otter, and start recording and talking. You're going to write emails of 4 people and email them to ask them questions.
Hello, this was the action. Dr. Mark Moyu here. Yeah, I had to use the whole doctor title just because, once you go through all that school, you kind of learn sometimes you just had to throw the titles out there. But I'm here to talk to you about machine learning, data science, AI, but more importantly, what you should be considering for your future and the future of careers. Traditionally, what you've thought of careers will not be the case by the time you graduate, go to school or not go to school, and get yourself out there in the world. You are now able to have a global career. That's something to consider as well. And another question I kind of want to tackle is, do you need to go through all of this school? Is all of this schooling worth it? And what do you do if you really don't like school? Like me, I hate school. I repeat, I hate school. I don't really care for it. I don't learn really well in that environment. There's some really interesting things that I have learned at school. That does not necessarily mean that would have been my first choice in terms of what I would have done. In terms of degrees, I left CIC, I believe, in 2006, came to the States when I was 18. I'm 34 right now, and I studied chemical engineering just because I had no clue what the hell I wanted to do. chemical engineering, I looked up, they paid the highest. Trinidad has oil. That was my fallback plan in case something didn't sort of work out. I could always come back home and get a job in the oil industry. They got paid well, and I like to earn a certain amount of money just because the more money you have, the more options you have, right? While people may argue it's not all about money, etc., etc., if you're broke and you don't have the money to go do the things that you want, then technically you can't be happy by whatever standards that you have sort of chosen to make yourself happy or just to live your life by. So that aside, finished my bachelor's in chemical engineering. I did my master's in systems engineering and then my PhD in systems engineering. What does that mean? Systems engineering, at least in the States, it differs in different places in the States. So on the East Coast US, that is more of a kind of like a project management type thing where you learn to run really large complex projects like building a rocket ship. How do you do all of the planning, cost, and all of the project and product management to do all of that types of processes. But if you go to the West Coast, systems engineering is actually how you end up building these large computational systems to run like Netflix and things like that. So other than that, I work as a senior data scientist at NVIDIA right now. So what does it mean to be a senior data scientist? That's in the field of machine learning, data science, AI, and I work with retail clients. So I work with like the Walmarts, Targets. I work with their data scientists to build algorithms to either do recommendations, computer vision, depending on whatever use case we're trying to solve at that time. I did not go to school for programming. I was actually a pretty terrible programmer early on, and that's something I sort of picked up along the way. If you had asked me if I would have gotten a PhD when I was in school, hell no. I was like the class clown, etc., etc. So I'm kind of here to remind you that if you are persistent, if you learn to network, and that means you learn to be valuable to many people, that will open many doors for you. Prior to working at NVIDIA, people know NVIDIA as like the gaming card company, but they also do a lot of artificial intelligence. I worked in the railroad industry doing data science, and then I worked for a company called LucidWorks out in California, working remote, by the way. Remote work is the shit. That's all I can tell you. I'm home. I work from home. I'll take naps during the day if I want to, right? And it's really a very nice freedom that most people don't have. And if you're in machine learning or in software type stuff, your salaries are very high. You get paid six figures, right? Over 100K US. So you can afford pretty good life. And living in Florida with over a six-figure salary, things you can live pretty good, okay? And the other couple of things I want to make sure, I know we're over kind of like the 3 minutes, but in all honesty, any advice that you get on career will essentially be very different by the time you graduate, as I mentioned before, and you want to focus on having a global career, not a Trinidadian career, not a Trimbigonian career, not a Caribbean career, a global career. The internet allows you to meet anyone across the world and connect with anyone. That means you could potentially get global opportunities with Web3 and all the crypto space and all the NFT stuff. There are companies that are hiring globally, so definitely take advantage of that. I hope you all hopefully adopt working out as part of your regiment. And if you want to hear more of the things or more stories of people from the Caribbean who've done great things in machine learning and tech, check out the Caribbean Data Science podcast on YouTube. That will give you a ton of different information about people who've sort of come before you, work at all these big tech companies, and you'll see that it is possible for you to work for these big tech companies. It's a little complicated if you're at home, but there are other mechanisms and other companies out there that want people with software skills, and you should know how to code. Even if you don't like coding, it's a good skill to have just for your future. So definitely over time, but looking forward to talking to you all if I get chosen later.
My name is Kareem Edwards. I'm currently based in London, England. I'm currently a senior manager in Amazon Logistics, and I want to tell you why you should choose going into the operations management profession. Operations management has to do with the design and controlling of production processes. You take inputs and develop processes to convert them to useful outputs. In my team, we work to solve very complex problems that could help improve the operation or to prevent the operation from deteriorating, so that we're able to deliver for the customer as efficiently as possible, as safely as possible, and providing the right team environment and atmosphere to enable this to happen on a consistent and a regular basis. What I had to study to get a job in the field, while there's no fixed qualification required to get a job in this field, most people in these type of roles, they tend to have backgrounds in STEM or sciences. Personally, I did chem, physics, maths, biology, geography, and so on for CXC, and I did a similar route, that's chem, physics, maths for A-levels. From there, I was able to then study chemical engineering at UWI. However, it didn't restrict my ability to do a business degree thereafter. I thought that gave me a really good platform to then come into this space of operations management and help do the work I do. So how did I get into this profession? Previously, I have a background in chemical engineering. I worked as a chemical engineer for an oil and gas company, BG Group, now known as Shell, for a number of years. During that time, I decided to go to business school. It didn't let my technical background restrict my ability to study other things. I attended a career fair for Amazon operations, and I saw that essentially the work that I was doing to improve processes and pipelines and offshore platforms was very, very similar to what they were trying to do. And this came with leading very, very large teams in fast-paced, dynamic environments as well. So I decided to give it a go, and the rest is history. So what do I like about my career? Firstly, I like the ability to sketch ideas and see it come to life in real tangible ways. Secondly, I like working with people and large teams. And thirdly, I like the ability to work with very state-of-the-art technology where I'm at that intersection. I've had the ability to work with and deploy robotic arms, Kiva robots that move the pick shelves from one to the next, and that is very fascinating in my opinion. If you're interested in being at the intersection of people and technology, if you're interested in leading very large teams, or if you're interested in taking your ideas and bringing it to life in very tangible ways, then operations management is the right profession for you. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Christopher Yimon. I am an alumni of CIC, and I'm here to tell you about my career. I'm a quality assurance engineer. The QA is the person in the software team at a software company who tests the software and ensures that the infrastructure and processes are in place so that other people are thinking about quality and also testing the software. So I don't test the software, but I write the software that tests the software. As far as my background, I work for a startup in Seattle, Washington called Mason. We make Android devices for businesses and for enterprise. I get to work with Android at a very low level, at the OS level, testing sensors and OS features and automating that testing and making sure that developers are putting out a high quality product. And prior to that, I worked at Dropbox, and prior to that, I worked on the Alexa team at Amazon. In terms of what I like about the career, I like that it has a very low barrier to entry compared to other professional careers. Compare it to like being a doctor or a lawyer, where it's very costly. It takes a lot of schooling before you can actually start doing work. With engineering, especially software engineering, you can bootstrap a lot of that with a lot of online resources that are available for free. As long as you have the focus and the persistence in order to structure that study, you can get very far. I have colleagues that have never had any formal tertiary education, and colleagues that have worked in coding boot camps, and they've been very successful. So I like that. I like that you can have a very big impact in this industry. Tech has been a major driving force in society for a very long time. And if you're ambitious at making positive change, you have the opportunity to do that. So, and also there's not a lot of pretense to the industry. There's no uniform. You can dress casually. Depending on the company, they can be very flexible with your work hours and your work-life balance. And in a lot of cases, you can work remotely. I have worked from Trinidad for extended periods of time. There are workers, colleagues that I know who do the same, who live in Trinidad and work for American companies. And other than that, it's just fun, you know. So, in terms of how I got into it, I've always known that I wanted to work with computers ever since I got one at age 11. But in terms of specifically the role and getting into it, two things were very helpful, which was working with computers as a hobby and learning a lot of those low-level skills that you need to be successful as an individual contributor starting out, and also being flexible about the role that you're willing to take after you come out of school and looking for jobs in the industry. You know, developer is not the only option. There's QA, tech writing, DevOps, product management, solutions architect. So as long as you're open to that, there are a lot more options available to you. In terms of my qualifications, I got my bachelor's degree in computer information systems. It's sort of a half business, half CS track. And then I worked as a QA for a year, and then I got my master's degree in management information systems, which is basically the same system, but at the master's level. And then other than that, there has to be a culture of learning all the time, doing courses, studying new tech, learning what's trendy. There's a lot of hustle and a passion for tech that's very useful in this role. And then as far as why you should consider it, you should consider QA as a job if you like tech, but you sort of want to exercise other skills besides technology. So there's the coding aspect to it, but then the testing aspect requires that you think critically about the software, that you empathize and embody the user and try to see what they would be doing. And then there's also a big team collaboration part of it. So you have to be working with people, you have to be personable in order to get them aligned with the quality needs of an organization. So yeah, that's what QA is about. And yeah, it's a good job.